What is your favorite memory of Marilyne Trotz? There's so many. I'm so thankful to have been touched by Marilyne's soul in this lifetime. What stands out most for me was her visit to me in Geneva, Switzerland, around 1979 when I was studying there. It was just the two of us. She curled up on my divan bed in my little studio with a glass of wine, and we were catching up on the most recent and somewhat unpredictable events in her life at the time. So, as a good pick-me-up, we got into my Volkswagen Beetle and headed to a lovely, homey restaurant that I knew in a quaint village nestled in the Jura Mountains that specialized in raclette. Now, raclette is one of the local Swiss dishes that you prepare yourself, like a fondue, on a short spatula, on which you place an assortment of cheeses, boiled potato, cold cuts, and whatever. And you shove it into a sort of grill, or like a stove, and then you took it out and topped it with pickles and devoured it. Not to mention the local white fondant that you downed it with. Marilyne looked at me in disbelief. She said, "Josiah, where's the dinner? What's this you doing? I could tell everybody here that you here eating barbecue cheese for dinner. I can't believe it." We had a good laugh and many, many more as we strolled through the village on that lovely, warm summer day. I thank Marilyne for the guidance she gave me, especially in the choice of study, with me being in Waterloo and she in Toronto, putting me in touch with the late Frederick Ivor Case, who became my advisor. And all of this eventually led me to Switzerland and much, much further afield. Marilyne was spontaneity itself, heart and soul, full of plain talk, and I loved her for it. I would like to thank Alisa and Maya for this opportunity to share in this celebration of Marilyne's life with her family and friends. And may she rest in eternal peace and always remembered with love.
Good day, everyone. I met Marilyne about 15 years ago when she was still the chair of the St. Rose's High School Board of Directors, and I was one of the youngest members of the board. Her no-nonsense personality was firm yet gentle, and her sense of humor. Marilyne would often tell you a joke with the straightest face that often makes you wonder if she was serious or really joking. There was one time I went home to visit and decided to pop over to see her. On approaching the house, I heard the loud sound of old school dub and said to myself, I must be at the wrong house. It was that young at heart spirit that was most contagious about Marilyne. She was always busy doing one thing or another. You can hardly tell that she was retired. I once told her that I wanted to be like her when I grow up. She had a hearty laugh. Yes, she was a phenomenal woman who always made an impression on anyone who met her. She was very proud of her children, and she was proud of me too. You see, I can easily pass for one of her daughters. Marilyne was a colleague, a dear friend, and a neighbor. We will all miss her dearly, but we know that she's in a better place and that she will always live on in our memories and in our hearts. May her soul rest in peace. To Alyssa and Maya and the rest of the family, thank you for sharing Marilyne with us. She has touched our lives in so many ways that you can never imagine. My condolences to you all.
How does one say goodbye to someone very special in their lives? Marilyne was not only a relative by marriage, but she was also a dear friend to our family. Someone to be admired not only for her beauty and smarts, even though she gives a lot of that credit to her grandfather Duncan Rohe for his influence in her life, but more for her devotion to her family. Marilyne was a beautiful person, a classy lady, and exuded all the best that any of us could ever hope for in this life. She was loved by so many people, endeared herself to friends and family alike for all of her kindness and love. She'll be remembered and missed by so many. Faye and I offer our deepest condolences to her daughters Alyssa and Maya, and her grandchildren, and other members of her family and friends around the world. And actually, we particularly remember our friendship with our dad, Charles Rohe, and the support she gave our mom, Winnie, when he passed. We will miss you, Marilyne. You're in heaven with the angels, but gone too soon from this earthly life. May you forever rest in peace. From Faye Mendoza and Dave Rohe.
This is not easy for me to do because I've lost someone who has been a friend for a long time, a friend who has shown me kindness in many, many ways. When I had to make trips to Georgetown for different reasons, and I was with Alexandra, and I suppose the one memory that I would like to add to the others here was when I knew her as the chair of the Board of Governors of St. Rose's, and I interviewed her for the research I was doing, and how she was in no way reluctant to make her feelings, to express her feelings about the sorry state of the situation, the education situation in Guyana, and what ought to be done to improve it. I will miss her, just as I miss many the members of my family who are no longer here with us.
From my behalf, I have a very vivid memory of coming to Marilyne's house in Georgetown and seeing her boudoir for the first time. That was dotted with hundreds, it must be, of little bottles and potions and lotions in the beautiful house that she hosted us in. I'll remember her sharp wit and her quick tongue, or a quick tongue and her sharp wit, and as a very strong woman, feisty woman, and as a daughter of a feisty, strong mother and a feisty, strong grandmother, I have always been in awe of women like this. And as we raise a glass to your incredible mother and grandmother, we will carry on her legacy in the ways that we raise my daughters and my mom's granddaughters. And we're thinking of you all in this incredibly sad time. Marilyne was a formidable, incredible woman, and she'll be very missed. So sending all our love to all of you. Cheers to Marilyne.
The last time I spoke with Marilyne was at our friend Sheila's Zoom party in December, and she asked me when I would next come to visit her in Guyana. I had last had the pleasure of doing so in 2015, when Sheila, Bernice and I stayed at her home during the St. Rose's International Reunion celebrations. Marilyne was a wonderful hostess, and our get-together was full of love and laughter. She was also a strong-willed, feisty lady, and many of you will know that a drive in the car with her at the wheel could be an exciting ride. We had many of those on that visit as she ferried us back and forth to various events. I remember on one occasion having the temerity to ask her to stop using her cell phone while trying to negotiate the hair-raising traffic on the highway. Well, if there had been an ejector button on my seat, I think I would have been flying high over Georgetown. The journey between my home in Scotland and Guyana is long and exhausting. But I did say to Marilyne that when the pandemic had subsided, I would think of making the trip again to see her. Sadly, that will not be. But happy memories live on. Bye, Marilyne.
Special love to Lisa, Maya, and Neville. This is my tribute to my sweet friend Marilyne. It was Marilyne who introduced me and the children to Guyana on a family visit. Of course, you know, Oscar's mother Gladys was Guyanese, and Oscar himself was born in Guyana. And it was Marilyne who bonded with me through Oscar and Neville, who of course were friends from days in Edinburgh University. The two families have benefited a great deal from this connection, and the friendships have lasted right to this day, and that's very special. I remember Marilyne took us to the zoo in Guyana so we could see the manatees. It was so exciting. The children had a wonderful time. Marilyne was the person who really enhanced my understanding and awareness of West Indian culture. Her friendship meant a lot to me, and I'm very grateful for that. She's left a wonderful legacy from her faithful service at CARICOM. She won't be forgotten. Rest peacefully, Marilyne.
In offering my condolences to Marilyne's family, I remember Marilyne as a very kind person who took me under her wing when I was a lower sixth form student at St. Rose's and she was in the upper form. After a span of many years, we met again and instantly reconnected. Marilyne was the same friendly, jovial, and kind person I knew from school days. We were able to see each other on a few occasions whenever she visited Elisa and Maya in Toronto, as well as at alumni reunions. I told her that we may be related as she has the same last name as my maternal ancestor, my grandmother, Leon. She was a stickler for the proper usage of the English language. For example, the feminine past pupil is referred to as alumna and not alumnus. I agree, Marilyne. On my visit to Georgetown in 2009 with some of my classmates, I recall how gracious Marilyne was when she took us all out to dinner at the Carroll Lodge on Murray Street. Marilyne will be truly missed by all those whose hearts she has touched and will be forever remembered.
I came to know Marilyne when I returned to Guyana in 1994. We both used to walk on the seawall, and after a while we became firm friends. Sometimes we would sit on the wall, and sometimes we walked all the way to Turkine, if she did not have a bridge date. Marilyne was an avid bridge player, and she tried many times to teach me to play. Unfortunately, the game made no sense to me, and this frustrated her beyond belief. Marilyne's generosity was huge, both with her time and resources. I met many people at her home who are now my friends. We both moved up to Windsor Estates around the same time, and the afternoon walks continued. We both missed the seawall and the calming effect of the ocean. When Garth died, a light went out deep within her heart. Oft times I would look up and her eyes would be filled with tears. Marilyne threw herself working for various charities, the Gentlewomen's Home being one of them. She took great pride in the achievements of both Elisa and Maya. Kai and Asha were the two bright sparks in her life. Hopefully she is reunited with Garth and they are laughing together. Rest in peace, my friend. I will miss you and our easy chats.
Dearest Marilyne, she was a truly remarkable woman who deeply touched the lives of all the persons who knew her, and in many ways. By the time my wife and I met her in the early 70s, she had already established herself as a person of note and memorable character. At the time she was married to Neville, and the children were quite small. I remember Marilyne bringing them to our children's parties, and we as a family enjoyed going to theirs. It was clear to see that her greatest joy was her life with her 3 children, and telling friends of their achievements and successes. She was the golden anchor of the family's life, even as she established and maintained her own remarkable professional life at CARICOM. We shared a clutch of similarly aged friends and acquaintances, and marveled as she became the confidant of everyone's anxieties, a font of sound advice, whether one wanted it or not, and the glue that held our little group of friends together in an age when many were leaving for greener pastures. Of recent, we were neighbors, and roughly 3 weeks ago, I invited her over to my condo for high tea. The word high in this case refers to where my condo was located, as when she was leaving, she became fearful of the flight of stairs from my first-floor condo to the ground. In fact, she asked me to guide her gently down to safety. She was not hesitant in announcing that she would not be visiting me ever again. She must have meant it corporeally, as spiritually she has invaded my soul with her passing, as she rests in peace. A light has truly gone out of the lives of us all.
Hello, this is for Alyssa, Maya, Marilyne's family and friends, and this is for anyone who misses Marilyne. Of course, I miss her greatly. I tried to recall one of the finest moments we had together, and I think there were 2. One was when she spent a long weekend with me in Barbados, and we had a wonderful time. I used to serve her breakfast in bed with mimosas, especially I think on the last day. We didn't have mimosas every day, but that Sunday, we sat on the bed and talked and laughed at ourselves mainly, and about life and where we were at and so on. And then I dropped her to the airport. But quickly, a second one was when a few friends with Marilyne came over to my house in Georgetown, and we watched the World Cup series football in 1996. So we watched the semifinals and had a blast, so much so that we decided we'll watch the finals together. And they all came over, we laughed, we chatted, we got up and did the Cameroon wine. Every time a goal was scored, we made comments, oh dear sexes, about the guys' legs and the teams, which team had enough people of color and which team we were rooting for, and we just had a great time. But they made so much noise, I had to tell them I was not inviting them back again, because everyone in the neighborhood thought I was a decent woman until these other women came and made so much noise and bacchanal. Marilyne, go in peace. You've lived life well. And one thing you ought to know is that you were loved by many, many people for your big heart, your kindness, I think your general love of people. I love you. I am so happy we met in 1985 when I joined the CARICOM Secretariat, and you were one of the first to welcome me, and we stayed good friends ever since. And the good thing is that our daughters have remained good friends. I am friends with them too, but that's intergenerational cycle continues, and I think that is one beautiful thing that we have left behind, Marilyne. I love you. Bye-bye.
Hi, Sheila DeGans in Toronto. Marilyne and I met in high school 68 years ago. And a favorite memory comes from those long ago days growing up in Georgetown. As teenagers, we loved to go to parties and dances and have fun. My parents were strict and seemed to like saying no to things. Marilyne enjoyed a lot more freedom growing up with her grandmother. So when it came to getting permission to go to parties and dances, it was Marilyne who would plead with my parents to let me go. First, she would go to my mother, who invariably said, "Go ask her father." My father in turn would ask, "What did her mother say?" And so it went. Marilyne would go back and forth with her shuttle diplomacy until she got her way. Now fast forward to December 2020. It's my birthday party on Zoom. Marilyne herself entertains the group by recounting this very memory. We all laughed then. Now, that memory is even more special. It touches my heart and gives me goosebumps to retell it now. Another memory I'll share is about this stole which I am wearing. It's a gift from Marilyne. The beautiful hand painting was done by a Guyanese artist. I was delighted to receive it. Almost 2 years ago, in the summer of 2019, knowing that Marilyne and I would be together in New York for the St. Rose's Alumni International Reunion, I decided to wear it to the gala. Marilyne, of course, recognized it right away and was thrilled. We had a great evening. Maya and I danced as if no one was watching. Marilyne was honored with a special award and delivered an eloquent acceptance speech. It was the last time we were together in person. Our last embrace. Our last dance. A joyous and cherished memory.
Hi, good night everybody. I'm Dacia. I live with mom since last year, June the 13th. And my favorite memories with her has to be around Christmas time. She never really wanted to decorate the house, but I was like behind her all the time. We have to decorate, we have to put up lights, we need a tree because it's Christmas. And I've always been excited about Christmas. So after a while, she was like, "What decorations do you need?" And then I got all excited again because I was like, yes, we're finally getting to decorate the house. And we went out, we bought the decorations, we bought curtains, changed up the entire inside of the house, her bedroom. We decorated the stairways inside, and we decorated outside. We put up lights. We would around 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the afternoon. Everybody would usually come out and go and walk around the community. So we would greet the neighbors and so forth. And she would say to me, "Put on the lights before we go out, because when we're coming back in, it would be minutes to 6 and the place would already be dark." So she was like, "I like to watch the lights as I come back in." Right? And it was so beautiful and I was so excited, and it was just lovely to know that she actually made an effort to, make me feel comfortable in her.
Hello, Alisa, Maya, family, friends, colleagues, everyone. PI here, speaking from Port of Spain. Marilyne was so exceptional. It's an honor to pay tribute to her. Most especially, I admired the way in which she was committed to CARICOM, to the regional integration movement. And I'm sure she and her spirit will live on to make Caribbean a true reality. Do continue and build on her beautiful life. She was exceptional, a really phenomenal mom to you girls. Take care. Bye-bye. PI.
Well, my favorite memory of Aunt Marilyne, which I fondly remember to this day, is spending time with her at her home on a number of occasions and us practicing French. So she was my French practice partner as a senior aunt, obviously. And we also played chess and a bit of checkers. Well, maybe more so checkers. But I remember her home like it was yesterday. I remember her face, her eyes, her mouth, her personality. And I always fondly remember those days. And just a remarkable person, and just shows you what small moments like that can do and add to someone's memory. Love her, love all of the family.
Lisa and Maya, this is my third attempt at video. I'm really bad at this. Just wanted to remember Marilyne in 2 ways. One was an experience we had when one Easter weekend we went to spend at Skeldon. And Lisa, you were there, and Sonia and Ajani and myself with Marilyne. And we were playing Pictionary. Marilyne drew this patterned circle and insisted that it was France, and nobody could tell her any different. She got so agitated while the timer was going that by the time the time ran out, she said, "It's France, all you can't see that is France." And that is Marilyne. Anything that she saw, she expected you to see too. The other thing is something connected to death. She would constantly call me and take me into her closet and say, "Okay, now look in the pocket, the inside pocket of the blue jacket, you find a key. Take that key will open the drawer in the dresser, top left-hand drawer in the dresser. And when you open that drawer, you will see a box. And in that box, you will find another key. And that key is the key, and it would go on and on and on and on and on. And this trail was supposed to lead to her will." So, Marilyne, why am I the person that you're doing this with? She said, "But the children are here. The children are not here. So you have to do it." So I guess I was the children. Happily, she did not need me to do those things in the end. And the children were very much there for her. She loved her children so much. I remember her telling me about visiting with Alisa, and Alisa being out and she being at home alone with Kai and Asha, and the phone rang, and she goes to answer the phone, and the children said, no, don't answer it. And she says, "Why?" And she said, "Because Mommy says not to answer the phone unless there's an adult here." Marilyne says, "So what they are says?" What they are saying, I'm not an adult. And this is how Marilyne was. She was just always, marveling at life and what life brought. And she had a good life and was good to a lot of people. And I hope she rests in peace. Children, know that she loved you. She loved you very much, and everything that she did was about you. Okay? Bye.
My favorite memories of Auntie Marilyne, at a very young age, 9 or 10, she was my French teacher and introduced me to the whole world of language, of being able to communicate with others. I enjoyed hanging out because it was more fun than work, and I was just impressed by the type of woman she was, how strong she was, how opinionated, she it was a wonderful thing to see a woman do what she wanted to do. And all of that was conveyed during our sessions. I enjoyed watching her smoke cigarettes. It was very exotic. And I enjoyed whatever perfume she wore. I was only 9 or 10, and it was some kind of fruity, flowery fragrance that she used to wear, and you could never smell the cigarettes, you could only smell that. And that was so formidable an impression, the language exposure, that I went on to do languages at CXC, A-levels, and to be fluent, I even tried a little Mandarin. Several years later, when I went back to Guyana as an adult, imagine bumping into Auntie Marilyne at the gym, and she was there working out. And she recognized me, actually. And she was like, "Are you Ayana?" And I was like, "Yes." And it was a nice reunion. The latest and funniest memory over the 50th anniversary of independence was this big chocolate bar in a purple wrapper in the freezer at Bev Harper's house. And Auntie Marilyne kept going in the freezer, and said, "Just a little piece, just a little piece." And those memories make me happy because they just reinforce that she lived her entire life according to what she wanted. And as a young girl and as a woman, those things are important. Her legacy continues because of the same thing that she did for me in French and for languages in general, her daughter Maya has done in sciences for my daughter, Ya. So I think it's a very rich and powerful legacy, and I am prepared to say goodbye to her and give thanks for her earthly works and her impact on my life and our lives. And I only want to say to you, Maya, and to you, Alisa, and the entire family and the friends and the circle, I'm sorry that Auntie Marilyne is gone, but I really give thanks for her life.
Yes. So, Marilyne, you are now returned, to that source of energy and consciousness. One thing I remember about you, Marilyne, is that you were beautiful. You were always wonderfully dressed. You had chic, which a lot of people don't have. And you were also, a women's rights advocate. You were always supportive of women's rights. You were young at heart, I know that, and a good friend. And you will be remembered very warmly by me. So, love, Danuta.
I've known Marilyne for many, many years, ever since we were at school. But we went to different schools, but we knew each other. Then she went off. I went to Canada, and we met again in Canada, where I used to help her babysit. And we had good times, I must say. She's always been a good friend, and I will miss her because every time I went to Guyana, we always met up, and she took me all sorts of places. And a great loss. I can't say enough about that. But she's always been a good friend, and right through, thick and thin. We kept in touch via the internet, but what more can I say? And this message is from both Jem Eitel and myself. And she has been a good friend to Jem also. Always been there. Jem has been there for her. She has been there for Jem. And we will all miss her very much. Marilyne, rest in peace. You're in a better place.
Same name. Hers has an E at the end, and that made all the difference. She's been an exceptional friend, and our relationship began when she invited me to help her set up the St. Rose's Debating Society. We won our first debate against the famous Walter Rodney, which filled us with confidence to engage in other debates. Although separated geographically through our lives, Marilyne has always managed to meet up with me and fill my life with her own activities, and I certainly miss her, especially when she says to indicate something pleasurable in her life. Farewell, my friend. Godspeed.
I'm saddened to hear of the transition of Marilyne. Marilyne was a colleague of mine from the 1980s at the CARICOM Secretariat. And we became more than colleagues. We became friends because of Marilyne's way of inviting people to be a part of her life. I recall many times on her patio in Pearce Street when she shared her meals with us at lunchtime and would always welcome a new person to the Secretariat. For me personally, it touched me when she organized a shower, a baby shower for me when I was getting my son Omar. It was so unexpected but lovely. And I think it pointed to the fact that at that time at the Secretariat, we saw each other in a very family-oriented way. I thank God for knowing her, because Marilyne was a person who lived her life the way she wanted to live it. She also made an invaluable contribution to the work of the CARICOM Secretariat, especially when she collaborated in the writing of the book on the history of CARICOM, which is used even at this time. Marilyne loved her work, and I know that she was missed when she left the Secretariat. I pray God that her soul will rest in peace, and that her family, though missing her, would realize that her life was a life well lived. My condolences to you, Maya and Alyssa, and all the other members of your family at this time.
As alumna and current principal of St. Rose's High School, I wish to emphasize the love, passion, and diligence with which Mrs. Marilyne Trotz served St. Rose's. I recall the St. Rose's Alumni Association reunion in 2015 in Guyana, for which she was the coordinator. She was very meticulous in her planning and executing of the various activities. I wish to point out the opening ceremony, the garden party, the gala, the cultural evening. Of all these events, you could have seen the quality of her service. We know clearly that she lived the motto of the school, Servium. May her soul rest in peace.
A strong sense of her own agency. She was clear, she was purposeful, and she had her own will for what she wanted to do. When I spoke to her before she went into the hospital for the last time, Maya was there looking after her. And I had occasion to tell her that now things have changed. She used to give her young children their directions. Now it's time for them to give her directions. And her response to that was, no, Maya can't tell me what to do. I have my own will. I do what I want. They can't tell me what to do. That was Marilyne for you, characteristic to the end of a strong-willed person.
Many years since I spoke or saw Auntie Marilyne, but images of her linger. Auntie Marilyne at an Old Year's Night fete that my parents had in the late 1970s at our house in Pear Street, Kitty. I was very young, but I snuck downstairs to be part of the fun. Auntie Marilyne sitting and talking and gaffing with all kinds of people, including my parents. She was my very first French teacher at primary school, and delighted in the fact that I chose the name Danielle off the blackboard because that was the name of her eldest daughter. Auntie Marilyne, images of her also at the Jordan's house in Barbados, tutoring me much later in years in French again. She oozed sophistication and glamour. That throaty voice, that Marilyne. We will miss her.
Dear Lisa and family, we join you in celebrating Aunt Marilyne. As a teenager growing up in Guyana, I spent a lot of time in your beautiful home in Pear Street, and so did my brother, Kwame. Aunt Marilyne was a cool, stylish mom, and she was really lovely to talk to. She made an effort to really engage us and regaled us with stories. Aunt Marilyne was also brilliant and extremely witty. She was a true academic and intellectual. But more than that, I remember her warmth and her vibrance, all of which permeated throughout your entire home. The gorgeous plants, the many books, and all the lively conversations that we had. Last but not least, I remember the yummy, yummy food. She was a truly, truly special person who will forever be in our hearts.
And she would say to me, you see how you got my children? If you want children, why you didn't bring them out yourself? But if anything went wrong with her or with them, we would be engaged in this from the get-go. And she would say, well, no, please don't ring and tell the children. Of course, I would always ring and tell the children because I thought that was best for her and best for them. She didn't always agree, but I think she appreciated the fact that we, or certainly I, but it was mostly we all did this in concert to make sure that she was well and that she felt loved and cared for. Because she certainly made us feel loved and cared for in between any of the spasms of jealousy about the children, which were few and far between. But she was glad that we were there to be seconds. So when she got ill this time, of course, I told Maya and Elisa, I said, well, if anybody could recover from COVID with all your mother's conditions, it would be your mother. Because she was a person who had enormous amount of medical interventions because she was asthmatic and she was diabetic as well. So I liked them. I think we thought she would conquer COVID. And perhaps if she was not in an isolated place, as COVID now makes you so isolated, she would have. So I was very happy to hear that it is that she reached a place. She was very afraid of death in an abstract sense. And I think it is a wonderful testimony to Marilyne's inner strength that from all the reports we had, she died with great calm and dignity as she, in a sense, dealt with every serious medical intervention. After the rah-rah-rah, she always emerged out of it with a certain calm and a commitment to do what was necessary to be better. So, hail up Marilyne. I hope you're playing bridge properly. Lots of love.
I knew
Auntie Marilyne since I was small, all of my life. And there are lots of memories to choose from. But the one which has kept coming back to me over the last few days was from the last time I was in Guyana staying with her in the early 1990s. And one Sunday we went out with a couple of people to Redwater Creek. There was a moment when she went in front of the creek, and she didn't want to get wet. She lifted up her dress and she went in the water, and then she started to move and sway with the water. And there was a moment there where it seemed as if she was becoming absolutely at one with the creek. And that is how I remember her. She is embedded in that landscape for me forever. And I will love her and remember her all of my life.
I would like to extend my deepest sympathies to Marilyne's children, her grandchildren, and her family. She loved you more than life itself. She was so proud of you, and you were her joy and her light, and I know what this loss means to you. I want to say how grateful I am for Marilyne's life, the life that she led, who she was to the people around her. I've spent my life working in foreign ministries and development agencies and even a regional institution. And if it's one thing that's become very clear to me, is that these institutions tend to promote.
My remembrances of Marilyne are numerous and varied, since they range over a period of well over 50 years. In life, one meets at least one unforgettable character. For me, that was Marilyne. She was the kindest, most generous person I had the great fortune to meet and associate with consistently. We could have lengthy talks on any subject, and it was always a joy to be in her company. She was a competitive and vociferous bridge player. Her great love and represented Guyana abroad on many occasions. She adored her children and grandchildren and was very proud of their achievements. I will miss her dearly. The love and good times we shared. Till we meet again, may you rest in peace.
Marilyne Trotz is one of the special people that I call my Hall of Famers, as they will forever occupy a special corner of my heart. Marilyne took me under her wing when I joined the CARICOM Secretariat, and we soon developed a solid friendship. Anything Marilyne did, she did with all her might, and she treated our relationship with that same relentless dedication. We shared stories and perspectives, we laughed, sometimes we cried. We showed up for each other at the drop of a hat, whenever, wherever. Of course there were times we disagreed, but the love and respect that we had for each other was unwavering. Marilyne knew that I best expressed myself through writing, but that I was also very reserved and insecure about this. She encouraged me to share my craft, often opening opportunities for me to do so, prodding me to push past my timidity. Just yesterday, Lisa sent me a copy of a story that was found amongst Marilyne's writings. The title of the story is Iman, my daughter's name. First paragraph in, it becomes clear that this story is about me. That Marilyne wrote this beautiful story of triumph for me is an honor that I will forever cherish. I have many wonderful forever memories of experiences this incredibly generous woman guided me toward. So many kindnesses unreservedly granted. It breaks my heart to know that she's no longer on this earth with us. Alisa, Maya, Kai, Asha, I grieve with you and I breathe with you. You were so deeply loved by Marilyne. I believe that the energy that is love prevails beyond consciousness. You are and will forever be loved. And Marilyne, I promise to write those stories. My promise to you. May you soar with the angels.
Well, I can't say that I've known Marilyne all her life. But what I can say, without contradiction, that I've known her for most of mine. An early recollection that I have, which is etched in my memory, is when Marilyne came back from UWI. And I met her at a party and I saw her dancing, bringing back the ska, which was new to Guyana at the time. And I have this image of a lady in bow, this probably imperfect image of a lady with bow legs, but she was beautiful dancing the ska. But later on, when she got married to a friend of mine, we became very good friends, and our families were very good friends, and we intertwined in several occasions. And when she worked at CARICOM and I was the Minister for Foreign Affairs, we worked together on issues dealing with the Caribbean, working for Caribbean unity and working for the togetherness of the Caribbean people. And she was tremendous as an officer of the CARICOM Secretariat. There are so many memories that I have of Marilyne, are qualities of a very charming person. Maybe one should keep some of the memories to myself. But she had a wonderful family. She's a beautiful mother, a good raconteur, pleasant person. Sometimes, not always, but always a friend. And I was always glad to have Marilyne at functions when I had my sip and chats, which some of you know about, one of my specialities. But towards the end, I remember Marilyne had a way of inviting people, and I was privileged to be among those who were participants in her parties. And I remember the last one, for instance, at the Cara Lodge, when Maya was present, and Marilyne was going on about the fact that she wasn't hearing too well, but she's not going to wear a hearing aid, one of these behind her ear. And I said to her, Marilyne, things have improved, nowadays you have things to put in your ear that people don't see. Being partially deaf myself. I said, in any way, Marilyne, you can get tested for it. And you don't have to wear them. But at least you know the extent of your deficiency. There I left it. I don't think she ever pursued my idea. I can't arrange for her to have them now. But wherever you are, Marilyne, we miss you. I wish you all the best. You were so kind to me and my family. My daughter was a fellow girl at your wedding, and our children were always close together. And we remain so. Lovely family, lovely person. Farewell, Marilyne.
Miss Marilyne Trotz, Trotz for me, was a true professional. She was comfortable in her skin and in her space. This long before the feminist movement. She was a perfectionist. Those reports had to be factually and grammatically correct. They had to be well formulated and paginated. They had to be ready and bounded in a way suitable to her heads of government, her ministers, and above all, her Secretary General. She would be with her staff throughout the night, as was often required to complete those reports. And in the morning, she would be there to ensure that the conference room was ready. She was a mother, very devoted to her 3 children. Her 2 girls, the way she pronounced their names, no one can repeat. Garth was simple, but when she said Garth, and you looked at her eyes, you saw all the expressions in it. Her daughters in particular have inherited that confidence, and in fact I would say they have taken both brain and confidence from her. My most memorable opportunity with Marilyne was one morning we were in St. Vincent, can't recall why, but the chief of protocol took us to the airport very early to await our late flight for Trinidad. He had to leave us because he had to take the Prime Minister later. So he had us in the VIP room and directed the chief of police to ensure that we were on the flight on time. The plane landed, we heard it. We listened for a call, we had none. We had a good sense of how long Liat would be on the ground, so at a certain stage I went through the door and looked, and behold, the clerk who sends the plane off was descending the steps. I turned back around and said, Marilyne, Marilyne, come. She grabbed her pull-on bag and I grabbed mine, and we were heading straight for the aircraft, with the aircraft engines both started and the aircraft facing us. We were hustling to the aircraft. Suddenly we saw one engine cut, and then the other. The pilot saw us, he stopped, took us. But the beauty was seeing Marilyne running into danger, following an idiot called Byron Blake. Marilyne was strong. She struggled throughout her life with a health condition, but you would never have known even if you asked. May her soul now rest in peace.
Hi there, Lisa, Maya, friends and other family members of Auntie Marilyne. It's really difficult to think of what particular thing to say about Auntie Marilyne for this tribute, particularly as it's impossible to reduce a relationship which is certainly almost as long as I have lived.
She is like no one genuinely I have ever known. There's, from the time I met Auntie Marilyne, when Maya and Alicia used to live in the other part of Pearse Street, Auntie Marilyne used to wear batty riders before batty riders was a thing. And she had these Jackie O sunglasses and she was sort of, she was hyper fashionable at the time. And she was always hilarious and challenging intellectually. But the story that I told on the tribute, which doesn't translate so well virtually, was that she'd come to visit in London And this is about 15 years ago. And this is a kind of example of what she was, because I think a lot of people said it today. It came out in a lot of the tributes to her, which is that she took herself extremely seriously, and you had to take her seriously. The protocol, the order, the regimen was all there, and you know, she was very strict about that. But at the same time, in balance, was this kind of mischievous willingness to laugh at herself, and she's almost inviting you to laugh at her as well all the time. And she came to London to visit, and she was staying in the Commonwealth Club, and I can't remember what she was here for, but anyway, so she sort of ring up and say, "You Lily, come on, you have to come and meet me at the Commonwealth Club, and go to the theatre afterwards." So I come down to the Commonwealth Club, and she says, "Yes, it's a Commonwealth Club in Mayfair, you know." So I come down and I get there, and she carries me to her bedroom, and she says, "Oh, yes, come up to my room." And I come up to the room, and Auntie Marilyne is reclining on this, what is to me, what would be to anyone a kind of like a single bed that camped into one side. And she lying on, and she's saying, "Isn't this wonderful?" And she with that, she nearly fall off the bed. And then she the same, at quite the same time, I then see 3 mice running around the room, and Auntie Marilyne is delighted that she's staying in this hallowed institution. And so we laughing about the mouse and everything, and then she and then that was kind of her style. And then she getting ready to go to the theatre now, and she all excited about this play she'd taken me to. It's something very, very, some friend had recommended it to her. So we go to the theatre now, and I don't know what the play is about. She's all excited about it, being in the play. I look across, I see Auntie Marilyne snoring. Auntie Marilyne snored through the whole play, right? When we come out the play now, Auntie Marilyne said, "Oh, you lady, wasn't that wonderful?" And I said, "Auntie Marilyne, which part of the play was wonderful?" She said, well, just the whole thing. I said, "Auntie Marilyne, you can only make this comment if you were actually awake during the play, right?" And she in business. She's "Man, look, I well and enjoy myself, man." And I said, "Yes, sleeping." And this was the kind of, you know, those are the sort of singular experiences I had with Auntie Marilyne, where she would make this declaration about how wonderful something, it was just excellent. And she just hadn't actually been awake during it. But she would, and my relationship with her was very much based on this kind of hilarity. And I always teased her. And actually, for someone who took herself as seriously as she did a lot of the time, and took intellectual rigor very seriously, she also was really, really willing to be risque and funny, and to laugh at herself. And I will really, really miss that. She is a figure that was in my life, as I say, since I was 4, since I knew Elisa Mice, and we grew up together. And in a sense, with her passing, it's significant for our generation, because it feels like we no longer have many from the generation above, and we no longer have the ability to recall the things that they represent. And I really feel for Elisa Maya, and I felt for the family as a whole in the exceptional set of losses that they've had in the last 5 years. And this one kind of hit me as well, just knowing the complicated sense of grief that everyone has around it. But I will cherish the memories of her contradictions and her humor.
Playing her favorite songs her granddaughter said. Funny enough, it was one of my mum's favorite songs, "No Regrets" by Edith Piaf. And I really hope Marilyne Trotz didn't have any regrets. She lived life to the fullest, I hope. And let me tell you a little bit of how I first remember her. I don't think it was the first time I met her, but the first time I remember her was by Dawn Van Rossum when she was actually living up in Republic Park. And if that is one thing that has to be said about Marilyne, is man, the lady had class. She used to dress perfectly. And I think she was getting an outfit from Dawn. Obviously cotton and the colours, and she put the things together in such style. Always well dressed. The next recollection, funny enough, is I went over to the house, I think it was around about Christmas time, and I know Alyssa was there, Maya was there, I don't think Garth had arrived as yet. Neville had come over with Johan, and the house had it was like smells of food was cooking, pots there. You know, it's like when you go over by Marilyne, it's always got something to eat. You can always go in a pot and get something to eat. Funny enough, I went over with Marcel at the time, and Marcel knew her, I think, a hell of a lot better than I did. I think through Alyssa and especially in the younger days, and so.
Was I there?
No, you didn't come with me then. Good. Fast track. Chelsea starts university at UFT. Who is the savior? Alyssa Trotz. Mentor, cousin, big sis. She did everything. In fact, in as well as, well, Alyssa would tell you the story really well of how I cried with snotty tears coming down. And so, because leaving my daughter up there, but safe with Alyssa. So every time I spoke to Marilyne after that, it was always about, oh gosh, Alyssa keeps telling me about your daughter, that she's doing so well, and she's so proud of her. And I think you say that every time, Mom.
Yes, she would always tell me that. But apparently she tells everybody how brilliant they are and how bright. So I'm not sure how special I really am.
Well, put it this way, she's surrounded by bright and brilliant
that's
people.
True. That's true.
I mean,
that's
she was
true.
bright and brilliant herself, so
Yes.
that's basically what happened. She recognized bright and brilliant in the people she associated with. At least I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Fast track again to this pandemic year, the last pandemic year especially. I visited her a couple of times. We talked on the phone. And one of the things she talked about, I can't remember what it was. It was last year. I can't remember exactly when, but September, October. She ran me up out of the blue. Beverly, why don't you apply for this job in CARICOM? I can't remember what the job was. I said, CARICOM, Auntie Marilyne, really? And I don't know what the job was. She said, no, you'll be perfect for it. Absolutely perfect. I said, I really don't think so whatsoever. I said, I haven't even got my Guyanese citizenship yet, which, by the way, I still don't have. And, you know, talking about that food, Chels, I'm real hungry. Yeah, I could do with a Marilyne pot right now. Yeah, she was very special. Loved her children. I know the Garth hit her hard, really hard. And, you know, I believe that somewhere along the line, I don't know, I think it's energy that energy doesn't go anywhere. It's still around you, the people you meet, and that's why you must always be around people that give you nice, positive energy. She always gave me positive energy, always had nice things to say to me and to my daughter, and miss you, Marilyne. You're a smasher.
With great love, I am reading this on behalf of my father, Bobby Phillips, and this is his favorite memory of Auntie Marilyne. Daddy and Auntie Marilyne met at Irvine Hall, UWI, Jamaica in 1961. Their relationship was based on simply totally enjoying each other's company. They were like brother and sister. They sat at the same dining table and walked across the campus lawns together from Irving Hall through Chancellor Hall, and this is an important detail, to go to the library to study. Daddy says that as they walked past Chancellor Hall, the Chancellor men would appear on the verandas, applauding Daddy and Auntie Marilyne as they walked past. On inquiring, they learned that the men were applauding the passage of two Beaufort people and Beaufort I have inherited. And Daddy and Auntie Marilyne would simply laugh this off and go on their way. Further from that, they worked together for many years at UG and at the CARICOM Secretariat. As they both retired in recent years, Daddy and Auntie Marilyne have kept in touch via emails and WhatsApp phone calls. The last time they had contact with Auntie Marilyne was just after her recent heart attack, when Mommy called to find out how Auntie Marilyne was doing. And it is noted that Auntie Marilyne was so touched by the number of phone calls and greetings and love and support she'd been receiving from friends and family from all over the world. Our families bonded during the years in Guyana, and my mother Elizabeth and Daddy were elated when Auntie Marilyne agreed to be the godmother to my sister Karen. At this difficult time, we embrace you, we love you, and we remember Auntie Marilyne with deep, deep love. Winston, Elizabeth, Judy, Karen, and Rachel. Au revoir, Auntie Marilyne. May you soar through the cosmos. May you hold your son's hand as you take on this new journey. Your impactful legacy, says Daddy, lives on in Alyssa and Maya, and in Kai and Asha. We love you.
Kia ora, and greetings from out in New Zealand. From me, Garfield, Luby, Charles. I'd like to start with just offering my deepest condolences to Alyssa and the children, and Maya and the rest of the family. My prayers and thoughts do go out to you guys in your time of loss and grief. It's been 27 years since I've seen GT or Marilyne, and my recollections are a bit old, but very clear and dear to me. My first recollections were with the old man, my dad, LG, dropping in after work on his way home to Pier Street Kitty to see Uncle Neville and Auntie Marilyne. But at that time, I don't think it was the happiest time for the family. But years later, and I believe a much happier time, as friends of her children and her adopted sons, we graduated to calling her Marilyne. I think she trusted us and saw us as people looking out for her children's best interests, often to the chagrin of her older kids. I recall with much fondness the deep and meaningful conversations about the issues, politics, etc., especially during a time when she was bedridden with a broken tailbone, and I think she appreciated our company. To a young adult, like I was at the time, these were gold. Her wisdom and insights added to my maturity and made me a much more rounded human being, I believe, and I'm eternally grateful to Marilyne for that. Marilyne, Auntie Marilyne, sleep well, rest in peace, until we meet again. I'm looking forward to catching up and be filled in with all the goss. I can only imagine that you're now with your beloved Garth having some great chats and giving him some serious advice. Well, salute and shalom from out of New Zealand. All right, much love, everyone.
Hi, this is Disa Philadelphia with a remembrance of Aunt Marilyne, who had been in my life since Maya and I became friends in first form at Queen's College. And as a teenager, I was very taken with Aunt Marilyne because, you know, she was just so very sure of herself, of her point of view, and she dressed the part and moved very confidently in the world. And, you know, as a kid with anxiety and unsure about myself, she was just such an important role model for me, and I'll always be grateful for that. And another great memory for me was when my daughter, Lily, who's 11 now, I took her home to Guyana when she was 1.5 years, and we spent an afternoon with Aunt Marilyne. And Aunt Marilyne, she just let Lily play with whatever she wanted, touched all her stuff, pulled down things. She was very particular about her stuff, as she should be, because her home was so well curated. But she just let, Lily be comfortable, and I'm so appreciative of that. And she also insisted on driving us home to my parents' house, and she drove so carefully across town. I think that we were the recipients of probably the safest driving she has ever performed. I'll always be in awe of her and of the legacy that she created. Love you, Maya. Love you, Alyssa.
I am glad that we can speak now, and I have had an opportunity to compose myself. But Marilyne and I have shared a friendship over many, many years. She was there for me, standing in for me from the time she heard of my son's tragic death. Marilyne was there every single night for that long week until the end of his cremation. She represented me, as unfortunately I was not there in person, but I was there in spirit. Chantal, Carlin, and I would forever be grateful to her. But that was the person Marilyne was. When I listened to Carol today, I would be remiss not to mention my own experience with Marilyne. It was slightly similar to Carol's in that it was with CARICOM at a meeting. I think it was in 1995. It was my first meeting doing the job similar to what Marilyne did when I worked at CARIForum. And Marilyne came up and she looked at, she was just staring at the flags. And I was getting very nervous because it was my first meeting. I said, Marilyne, is something wrong? She didn't answer for a few seconds. And then she says, you tell me what is wrong. And I looked at the flags. Everything was in order. I had all the flags. This meeting was in Trinidad. And she said, Margaret, something is wrong. Can't you see it? And I got more nervous. Then she said to me, she says, where are you? I said, Trinidad and Tobago. She says, well, what is Trinidad and Tobago today? And I said, the host country. She says, look where you have the flag. The flag is in line before, I think it was Suriname. I said, where should it be? It is the host country, Margaret. It should be the very first flag. And that was Marilyne. That was my friend. I will cherish all the memories I have of her, very good memories. I'm going to miss her when we share the anniversary of the death of our sons, because she gave me support, and she still does. And I will always remember Marilyne. What a friendship. What a friendship. And being a good friend and having a good friend can enrich our days and bring us lifelong satisfaction. But friendships don't just happen. They have to be created. They have to be nurtured. And that is my friendship with Marilyne.
Marilyne was an exceptional woman, and that I had the privilege of sharing years of happy life with her in our marriage. 22 years, in fact, in which we had, as you know, 3 wonderful children. We had happy years. And then you all know the story that we separated, our marriage came to an end. For a little while, things were pretty, well, as you would expect, not so good between the two of us, but the glue we had was the children. I remember my 80th birthday. That was a happy day for me. Gina had thrown a party for me, and unbeknownst to me had invited Marilyne. And you could understand my consternation when the door opened that night. And there was Marilyne with my 2 beautiful daughters and 2 beautiful granddaughters. For me, that was so touching, and I will always remember the joy and happiness of that evening. I happened to see her once after that on a visit to Guyana. This was, I think, at the beginning of 2019. And of course, I went to see her
with Johan at my side. I said, let me walk with Johan, but she was so happy to see him, and it was a lovely occasion. I spoke to Marilyne while she was in hospital, a couple of days before she passed away. And what I told her, I said, Marilyne, you have to fight this thing. You have to live, because your two granddaughters are still expecting you to take them to Paris. I don't think that, I could take on that. My French ain't good enough. And that was our last conversation. We had wonderful days. We had days that were not so wonderful. But I am comforted by the fact that we have left two beautiful daughters, two wonderful granddaughters, legacy to her strength, legacy to everything that was wonderful about her.
Ni le bien qu'on m'a fait, ni le mal, tout ça m'est bien égal. Non, rien de rien. Non, je ne regrette rien. C'est payé. J'ai allumé le feu, mes chagrins, mes plaisirs. Je n'ai plus besoin de balayer les amours avec leur trémolo, balayer pour toujours. Je repars à zéro. Non, rien de rien. Regrette rien, ni le bien qu'on m'a fait, ni le mal, tout ça m'est bien égal. Non, rien de rien. Non, je ne regrette rien, car ma vie, car mes jours, ça commence avec toi.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Beverly, and I'm Auntie Carol's daughter. And on behalf of my own family, I would like to express and extend my condolences to Alyssa, Maya, and their Auntie Marilyne's grandchildren, her siblings, and her entire family as a whole. A lot today was said about her dedication and devotion as a mother and as a friend. But I would also like to attest and to let everyone know that she not only supported her children and her friends, but she also supported the children of her friends, and I am included in that category. And I remember that when my son was born, after she went exercising on the seawall, she came all dripping and sweaty and insisted on seeing my son after he was born. So of course I said, okay, Auntie Marilyne, that's fine, but please wash your hands first, of course. And so she conceded and she did that, and she looked at him and she said, what a beautiful baby boy. And so I just want to assure her children and all of her sorrowing relatives that she impacted not only her compatriots and her friends, but she impacted generations. And so please be assured that she will always be remembered and we will miss her dearly. So on behalf of the Chetty family, I extend my deepest condolences to the family.
I just wanted to read to Maya a very brief part of an email that Aunt Marilyne sent to me when my dad died 2 months ago, and I can't believe now that she's gone. And I'll just say it briefly. Dear Susan, I'm at a loss of words, even though I've been thinking of you since yesterday, when I decided to send my condolences in writing. I know that nothing will ever ease the pain that you, Claire, Judith, and Roderick, and at what you must feel at your loss. I can tell you from my own experience that time will never heal the pain. Time never does. You have to dig deep into your resources and hold on to the memories you have of your dad and mom and draw comfort from the values they gave you and their beloved children. And she goes on to say that I regret due to COVID that I cannot physically attend the funeral. I have to allow good sense over emotion. I'm a senior now and I'm 79. Big hugs to you and to the gather strength from their contribution. Love always, Auntie Marilyne. And it's hard to believe that she has passed on since writing me such a beautiful letter. And I was overwhelmed with the number of texts and emails I got. And as soon as I got them, I used to just do an automatic thank you. And hers was the one email that I did not put aside. I read it immediately. And I hope the angels are listening, but I have to tell her thank you.
Elisa calls it iconic, but it is a photograph from 1965, which would have made me 3 years old. And I was the flower girl at Auntie Marilyne and Uncle Neville's wedding. Everybody, since they've seen this picture, are like rude mouth and why are you staring like that and so on. I just want everybody to be reminded that I got to dress up. But the whole thing took a really long time. And I fell asleep in the church and then they had to wake me up to take out the pictures. So I was not a happy camper. And then one of the stories about this photograph is that I always told the story that at this wedding, my mother made me wear my brown Clark's leather shoes with my flower girl dress. And a couple of years ago, Auntie Marilyne pulled out this photograph and she said, Vicky, I always knew something was wrong with your story. Your mother did not make you wear your brown leather Clark shoes as a flower girl. You had white shoes and white socks. And this is the photo to prove it. And so there we are. And then later on, Andai said to me, and look at me, I got a flower in my head. And just like you, only Marilyne could make me do that. I never did it again. And I will say, I have never also had a flower stuck in the middle of my forehead since then. In my working life, I became a caterer. Nothing that my parents actually desired for me. But who was my first client? Auntie Marilyne. Because we moved back to Guyana and Mommy said, well, Vicky, you want to make some money. Why don't you do some cooking? And I said, okay. And I started to make pâté. So I would make a terrine, a chicken liver terrine, and a pâté de campagne, and a quiche, and a smoked fish salad, because we brought a little smoker back from New York. And Auntie Marilyne would call me up and say, Vicky, I want to order a pâté de campagne, a little chicken liver pâté, a terrine, and a quiche, because I'm having some women over for lunch on Saturday. And so that's how I started catering. And she introduced me to, to my father's cousin, Wendy, who would also order from me. So they were my first 2 clients. And when I was in unexpected lockdown in Guyana last year for 5 weeks that stretched out to almost 10 months, one of the things Auntie Marilyne would say, "You cooking for Jocelyn? Why are you not cooking for me?" So I would say, "Auntie Marilyne, what would you like?" And what did I make? I made quiche and chicken liver terrine, and then I would deliver to Windsor Gardens, Windsor Forest, and she would let me in only to deliver the food, and then we would talk across the garden.